Are you ready for an extreme makeover of the mind? With the producer and host of A Better You podcast, the transformational coach whose assignment is to challenge people to change, grow, and evolve into the individuals they were created to be. Here is Dr. Anthony McFarland, providing you with practical tools and wisdom for everyday life challenges for you to win in life, relationships, and finances.
Hello and welcome to ABU, A Better You podcast. I'm Anthony McFarland, and I am really excited about my guest today. And I guarantee you, you are going to be blessed by this professional. He earned a master's in clinical psychology with an emphasis on marriage and family therapy from Pacific Oaks College. He has substantial experience working with children, adolescents, adults, and families in community mental health and hospital settings. He's treated individuals experiencing symptoms from major depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, adjustment disorder, and attention deficit, which so many of our kids are being diagnosed with today, and hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, which most of you are familiar with that terminology. He's trained in and utilize evidence-based modalities such as cognitive behavior therapy, family systems, and solution-focused brief therapy to help clients experience desired improvement. One of the things that I like that he says, where there is room for improvement, he is dedicated to helping clients occupy that space. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the ABU podcast, Mr. Eric Warren Jr. Man,
Right.
How you doing,
Thank
E?
you, thank you. I'm good. It's a blessing to be able to be on here.
Yes, it is. And I tell you, again, as I was sharing with the audience, how excited I am to have you. And that's because, you know, we've recently been on some platforms together.
Yes.
Of course, I invited you to be a part of the Man Cave follow-up that we did with men, where we had over 100 men get together the other month for Southern California Women's Health Expo, which featured the Man Cave for men. And yeah, I mean, the connection is there, man. How you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm well. This is always important. Anytime that brothers can get together and talk about things that we don't always address, and sometimes we're kind of hesitant to address, it's always a good thing. So I'm privileged to be able to be on your platform, and I'm grateful that you're one of the brave ones to address certain things that have to be addressed.
Yeah, Eric, as a pastor, as well as a licensed personal life and finance coach, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, especially being in Christian counseling for over 28 years, pastoring 24 years, doing a lot of marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling, and family counseling. I see just the dynamics of what families go through, especially within the Black and Brown community. And I'm just passionate about it. That's one of the things that I love about you. You're passionate about what you do as a therapist. And man, that just blesses me. And you're knowledgeable and you're very creative in your approach to coming up with the resolutions and helping people see things from a different lens. And so with that, when we think about the Black and Brown community specifically and how stigma affects Black Americans, when we talk about mental health, how do we come to this place where we don't allow, or we change the commentary or the narrative of these stigmas when it comes to Black Americans?
You know, that's a great question. And it's a very complex, answer that is deeply rooted to, our culture, our heritage going all the way back to slavery. I think that if we're honest with ourselves, one of the things that we experience, and I want to reference Dr. Joy DeGruy, who is the author of Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Anybody listening, if you've never read that book, I encourage you to definitely do it. But there are many things that we took from back then the trauma that we experienced that still lives in us today. You know, vicarious trauma many times, or trauma just being passed down from generation to generation to generation, in which today, 2024, we still have remnants of that very much, in which we oftentimes want to deny or shy away from things that we feel as though are that was designed and that was utilized mostly by our oppressors. So when we think about things, we know what it's like growing up in school. The little, if it's a school in the inner city, you got the kid that's trying to do his work, that's trying to be smart, that's trying to be, you know, take care of business, or maybe the young lady that's, you know, really focused on trying to get good grades. They get teased for being smart. You get teased for being a nerd.
Right.
You know, things along that nature. So the same thing is very much applicable when it comes to any type of wellness within it, where you're trying to go get a therapist. It's kind of looking like, oh, well, why are you doing that? Or why would you want to do that? You kind of look down upon. So because we're afraid of improvement, in a sense, being ridiculed by our own people, we are hesitant to do it, but it is something that is very much necessary. We must take this mental health thing very, very serious. If you all don't believe me, the next time you go outside and you see, if you find 5 people that look like they may be transients, unfortunately, or without shelter, I want you to look at the next 5 that you see, and I want you to notice that the vast majority of them, I can guarantee you 3 to 4 out of 5 of them don't have a single strand of gray hair in their head, affecting young people. And this is all because like you said, the stigma surrounding it, people not wanting to talk about these issues that are very much prevalent.
Yeah, because it's very stressful and even traumatizing in some respects. And I thought it was interesting that you use a someone homeless, because they're treated or perceived as less than. And specifically, when we talk about the color of our skin, I mean, that's like, it's real, because members of the Black and brown community face structural challenges that I don't know if it prevents us from wanting to access the care and treatment that we need, or there's this fear prevents us from doing that.
Yeah, well, I think it's a conditioning. Going back to the reference that I used before, as far as
Slavery.
Slavery. So being too smart, being too polished, being too well, you know, things like that. Being, you know, if we go to some of our people, we go to a place and if the food is cooked with, it has light salt, we look at it as nasty. This is bland. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're supposed to have that.
Right.
You're not supposed, but we go against that thing because it's a conditioning. Until sometimes it's almost too late. That's why Big Mama, you only see Miss Dash in her cupboard now. Because she can't have all of those things. And so when you that is applicable to sort of like mental health, where you see like, man, I don't need to talk to no therapist. That's for weak people. That's for this, or that's for, I'm not supposed to be doing that. I don't need to do that. And then it gets too late. And sometimes it's almost irreversible, where somebody may have a psychotic break that could have been prevented had you just talked to somebody.
That's good.
About what was going on.
So as you deal with families, as you deal with adolescents, kids, when we talk about the school to prison pipeline specifically for Black children, which, I just recently experienced something with one of our kids that I love dearly. And I went to the school with the parent because the child, 12 years old, was being put on probation for really silly acts, nothing really severe or serious. And she was trying to express to them how you starting to put kids, specifically, this was an African-American boy, on probation for behavior, especially none of it had to do with violence, him attacking, fighting people, just being silly, things that kids do. And they all voiced that they love the kid, but for whatever reason, they felt it was necessary to put him on probation. And she was trying to explain to them, this is the start of, this is how you create a rap sheet, for our children, and get them conditioned, or start to make them think like there's something wrong with them. How do we dismantle this
as far as the school
mindset? As far as the school, the in terms of the mindset within the school, with dealing with teachers, principals, educators who view African American kids in such light, and then start to treat them a certain way, penalizing them for certain behaviors. I don't know.
Well, I think one of the things is, before we must hold the school accountable in all capacity, whether it's from the school to the school district, all points in between. Everybody must be held accountable. But before we can even get to that point, we must make sure that the child is being reared correctly in home. See, because at the end of the day, and this is not making an excuse or anything like that, but most teachers, when they go get their degrees and their certification credentials and all that kind of stuff, they're learning to be able to teach reading, writing, math, and arithmetic. Not so much being told how to teach manners or common courtesy and things like that. That is something that must be done at home. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about the school to prison pipeline, before there is school, before there is prison, there must be home. And if the home is intact and is doing the right thing, where we value education more than we do entertainment, you can rest assured that teacher, that principal, whoever else is going to think twice before they even think about doing anything with that kid. Because rest assured, even though it's a teacher, even though it may be a principal, administration, they're still human beings.
Right.
And they understand the concept of value from the aspect of observation. They know what kid they can just by the wayside a little bit, and which one not to. Right. See, when the parent is very much involved and is hands-on, and there's a collaborative effort to ensure that the child is learning and behaving the right way, that's what cuts off and blocks that pipeline from actually, funneling all the way through. So that has to be had. And so parents have to be, parents can't just expect the child's teacher to be impactful between the hours of 8 to 3. Right. I got to tell parents that even though, yes, you are their mother or dad, but you are also their teacher, and everything has to be collaborative.
That's good.
The old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So when it comes to that thing, we have to take education serious. And it's not just in the schoolhouse, it's also at home.
That's good.
So that's one of the aspects. And one of the other things I want to make kind of talk about too is, and Pastor, I'm not going to get on a soapbox. I'm not going to do it, but these are things that have to be addressed. And like I said at the beginning, you are one of those people that don't mind addressing certain things. We've got to talk about the importance of children being reared effectively, collaboratively, and correctly by both parents if they are around. It's very, very important. This is just data. This is not conjecture. This is not speculation, but there are far too many young Black boys and girls, brown boys and girls too, not quite as an alarming number as Black boys and girls, but it's still too many that are being raised by single mothers.
Yeah.
Or maybe just single fathers and the other parent is not in there. So whenever you don't have, it's like a bicycle.
Parents, right.
A child is like a bike. It needs their parents or the wheels. You need both of them there. If not, yes, you can try to willy your way through life if you want. I don't know how far you're gonna get though. It'd be best if both of them wheels were there. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very important.
2 wheels, 2 pedals.
There you go. It's important to have that, and that has nothing to do with that teacher. That has nothing to do with that principal. Again, that's that home thing. So before we can hold the school accountable, and which we will, we've got to make sure that the home is being held accountable as well.
So what do you say to the single mother who is dealing with a child who has, I don't know if it's just attention deficit disorder or, some mental health issues, and having a tough time in school? what would you say to that single mom?
She has to prioritize advocacy based on the circumstance that she is in. She has to make advocacy a priority. So if she knows, like, okay, because chances are the child, if it's really ADHD, if that's really what's happening, then by diagnostic criteria alone, it's not just happening in the school setting. It's also happening in the home setting.
At home, right?
It has to, in order for that diagnosis to take place, parents must know that. In order for that diagnosis to take place, it must be present in both settings. So if that is also happening in the home setting, then mom must also be an advocate, and she must understand and the teachers must also come from a collaborative aspect as opposed to a punitive aspect, where it's like, okay, well, how can we get this young child, kind of on par to do things that we need to do? And so also looking at resources. What does her community consist of? Not talking about everything environmentally, what's in a 5-mile radius, but her actual ecosystem, her personal ecosystem. Who does she contact the most? Who does she communicate with the most? Who is there for support? We must make sure that I want to make sure that she has the correct resources.
That's good. Because
this child of hers, they don't, one thing about children, as long as you feed them, they continue to grow. And a 5-year-old with ADHD does not incur the same penalty as a 14-year-old ADHD. So we want to be able to get in front of that by all means. So being able to utilize resources and coming to a place of acceptance, saying like, look, I have a child that does have some learning challenges, and based on this, I'm open and ready, and I am prioritizing to ensure that they have as many resources as possible, and also advocating the right way. So we have to advocate. Advocacy is important. And if she doesn't feel like she can do that, well, they must have somebody like you. You said you went up to a school the other day. It's important. If you have a child that has, some challenges, is not performing well based on, whatever the case is, you got to have a community of people that will help you advocate.
One of the things that I've seen in some cases, the relationship is actually not as healthy as it could be between the parent and the child, especially when it comes to them being patient, understanding, and accepting. What does that look like for the parent who's, maybe working 1 or 2 jobs and trying to juggle everything, and they're not as patient, they're not being as understanding as they need to be, and maybe they let their child know that they believe in them, and they speak of the good things about them, but they're not able to give their full attention to that child. What do you say to that parent?
Again, community. We must establish community. We have to prioritize that. What is the mother or the father of a single parent? What is their community? We must establish that. And don't beat themselves up too hard. Every once in a while, sometimes children do things and you may raise your voice. You may get very, very upset. You get totally frustrated. It's not a reflection of you being a mean person. A lot of times it's just a reflection of you just really being stressed out, and them not, putting them dishes away is the tipping point. You know what I'm saying? That's the straw that you totally lose it. So you have to be able to regulate that to the best of your ability. It is hard sometimes. It is very hard. Nobody's going to say it's not, but you have to find out and establish community. You have to do that. It takes a village. No one can do it alone. You can't do it alone.
When a child has a challenge with focusing, right, discipline, how does that parent set healthy boundaries? What are some of the things that parent can do to set healthy boundaries for that child to help curb that behavior?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things is you can either exacerbate it or you can extinguish it. As a parent, you must learn to extinguish it. You must say, okay, and part of that is, by way of doing that, is coming to a place of acceptance and learn and understand and say, wow, my child really has this going on. Whatever they said, these symptoms that are displaying, this is a real thing. Putting more, yelling and screaming, and it doesn't cure anything.
Right.
One of my favorite sayings is from Rumi. He says, "Raise your words, not your voice, for it is rain that grows flowers, not thunder."
Woo!
I stand by that. And so when it comes to dealing with children that have those things, that yelling thing is counterproductive. It does nothing.
Right.
If you want somebody to function better, you can't instill more and more fear in them. It doesn't work.
And that methodology actually happens a lot within the Black community.
Very much, but it happened. You don't become a 30-year-old parent without first being a 3-year-old child.
Yes.
And so what happens in those, you're a sponge. You're teaching your child what was taught to you. Dr. Miles Monroe once said, if you teach your child everything you know, and you know absolutely nothing, society, this is what's coming.
Yeah, I have a saying, everything produces after its own kind.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, it's the truth. 1 + 1 does equal 2. An apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just was going to do a quick recap. So, you said something. You said, and in essence, you were saying, accepting that my child has a learning disability, a challenge with staying focused, whatever that is, being open to accept it and not be in denial to it. I think that's the first thing. That's very important. And then from there, understanding and creating a community, a supporting cast, and then getting the tools needed to communicate and develop a healthier relationship, interaction with that child while creating boundaries that will curb that behavior.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and you must understand the reason why we talk about acceptance, because even ADHD or ADD or depression or anxiety, whatever it is, it's a diagnosis. And he that accepts a diagnosis and he that does not accept a diagnosis don't share the same fate. It just is what it is. When you accept something, when you come to a place and you realize, like, okay, this is what's wrong. It's a car. Check engine light is on. Hey,
right.
You may want to go get seen by the mechanic.
Right.
Hey, or not.
Right.
Don't do it, and watch what happens. So you must accept it. Once you accept it and you say, no, I need to go on and get this right, this now becomes my priority. And sometimes we're always looking for something to focus on. What's going to be this or what's going to be that? What can I where can I shift my focus? Sometimes your kids will give you that. They'll tell you what to double down on. They'll tell you what to double down on. So now that I know my kid has this learning disability, this is my number one focus. Everything I do is around that. So now I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to engage in this, that. Nope. Everything comes down to trying to make sure that my child has the absolute best with what I have. See, a lot of times, a lot of people sleep on how good lemonade actually is. You get handed lemons, life hands you lemons. You better learn how to make lemonade out of it.
Right.
You got to know that.
Get you some sugar or some honey.
Yeah, learn it. Do something with it. Versus just letting it sit. Now you sour. It's no good.
Right.
Do something with it.
So I love the analogy that you gave, and that is the check engine light is on.
Oh, the check engine light on. Yeah.
And so let's talk to the men out there. No, their check engine light is on, but they're in denial to the check engine light being on. How do we get men to understand the importance of acknowledging and addressing the check engine light when it comes on, so that they take mental health serious?
Well, we have to find out if there is something that causes them. Because most of us do understand it, or a lot of us do acknowledge it. But many of times what it does is it invites us to engage in some type of maladaptive behavior. So we know the check engine light is on. We know something's off. But because something's off, man, I'm gonna drink as much as I'm gonna drink it away. I'm gonna try to smoke it away. I'm gonna sex it away. I'm gonna gamble it away. I'm gonna do something, I'm a pornography, whatever it is. You do a whole lot of things to try to just like, I'm not gonna I can't ignore it, but I ain't gotta, let me just do this so it can delay me from having to address it. And then when you finally do address it, sometimes it's too late. So for men, I always say, man, when something's wrong, see about it. See about it. The God, the first thing that you were given was life. Attached to that life is your body. Respect it. Something's going on with your body, you need to adhere to it. You love your money. You love your money.
Right.
Let you be missing $8. You're gonna move mountains to find out who did. What's wrong with my account? Yeah, but what's wrong with your mind?
Let's say I'm a man. I'm dealing with the silent ache. I know that the check engine light is on. What's the first thing that I do? What's the first thing that I should do? I'm in pain, whether that is hurt from something that has transpired, some form of trauma, to something that's causing me depression. What is the first step after I recognize that check engine light is on? Because you're right. We all know the check engine light is on. We all know something's wrong. What's that first step, second step that we need to take now that we're very clear that something's wrong and we know that we need help?
I think after you acknowledge that that check engine light is on, you having that moment with yourself and being able to say, I realize I'm not okay. And it's okay to not be okay. And even more so,
Right.
It's also okay to go get some help because I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with that and being committed. Say, no, I'm gonna do better. I've accepted the fact that this is what it is. I've accepted. Remember that word? We keep on to that word, acceptance.
Right.
I've accepted the fact that this is a problem. This is an issue that I'm having. It's up to me to make good on it. If you are faith-based, the first thing before you go to Google, you better go to God. Talk. Speak on it. And then from there, say, look, you know what? It's something that I know I need to take care of. Give me the courage, give me the strength. I'm not going to exacerbate it, but I know that there's some people out there helping me.
Yeah.
There's some people out there that will be able to help me. But I can't. If a therapist is a fish, I ain't gonna get one in the hook if I don't drop a line. I got to, I'm saying, I got to drop a line. I have to do my part. I ain't gonna keep it no other way. So you have to speak up.
Denial is a monster, though.
Oh man, yeah. If anybody listening, just know denial is not a river in Egypt. That ain't what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Denial, man.
It causes self-sabotage for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that's because of the ego.
The ego. Ooh.
The ego is really the driving, fear and ego is the driving force behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about I'm gonna go here. I said I'm not gonna go here with you, but I'm that guy. You the guy. We on the same page. Diddy, Sean Combs. He was like, I was just in a deep, dark. I was dealing with deep depression at that time. Mm-hmm. And, he said, I went and sought out some therapy to get some help with it at that time, but the behavior hadn't changed. And so when we think about, at first when I initially saw that video, and I'm not going to go back into that, but him and how he was very abusive to Cassie, I thought about how long they had been in the relationship. And I thought about that there was possibly some trauma bonding there, because I went back and I thought about his relationship with Kim Porter and how he was unhealthy. Mm-hmm. Abuse was there. And if you go back to his college days and just, again, fast forward, narcissism, symptoms of narcissistic personality. How do we deal with that? How, especially people that are in relationship with individual who, like shows all of those signs. They're superior, the self-important, self-exaggerate, a lion spirit, constantly has to dominate situation and circumstance. And then again, just unwilling to recognize or deal with the feelings and emotions of others. How does a person deal with it?
Okay. Well, number one thing, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I got to bring up that word again. That's our word for today. Acceptance. Yeah. The minute you see those fangs come out the mouth of a sheep, and you see those, you see paws on the floor, you got to come to this is not a sheep.
Not a sheep.
You're dealing with a wolf.
That's a wolf. Yes,
Sir. You got to know it's acceptance. Number one is acceptance. And the minute you start to think, if you're thinking to yourself like, okay, I'm dealing with something that this might be, chances are it usually is. Oftentimes, so unfortunately, in 2024, and this goes from, because that diagnosis, when we think about narcissistic personality disorder, it is not confined to just one gender. Right. Both men and women have it. Although, studies have indicate that, there are more men that go diagnosed with it, but it doesn't have a gender, both men and women. But oftentimes in 2024, a lot of things are hard to come by. Money is one of them. And, people don't do pretty much anything for free in America, including giving you a nice place to live. So what happens is some people will be having to share a living quarter with a narcissist. What if the narcissist is the breadwinner? You don't have any place else to go. Right. So you have to think about, do I deal with being out on my own in the streets potentially? Maybe if I have kids, how does that look? Or do I just have to deal with kind of walking on eggshells? And you have to decide that. And it's a very, very difficult thing. Narcissistic abuse is one of the most, it can cause people, it shaves people's lifespan down more than people even know. Wow. Because dealing with constantly being, kind of stepped on, manipulated, and you don't know when it's going to come. You don't know. Yeah. Every day, everybody, we're having a good time. Everything's just cool. You're enjoying yourself and all that kind of stuff. The following day, you're back in a vortex of just shame, agony, just defeat. And it's constantly going. So when it comes down to people in those situations with that type of scenario, is number one, coming to a place of acceptance that's a wolf. That's a wolf. Remember, you see a whole lot of things in circuses. You ain't never seen a wolf in one. Yeah, that's a wolf. That's not a sheep. That's a wolf. Okay. Certain things they by nature, they really are probably better off alone. Mm-hmm. Just or out in the wild. You don't want to try to tank. You don't want to try to be in the crosshairs or something like that. And so usually with that, I always encourage people that you must feed them a diet of distance.
Ooh, that's good. You must feed them a diet of distance.
And it must be steady. Yeah. Now, devout.
How do you do that when you live with the person?
That's when, again, community. You must come to the place to understand, what do you value most? Okay. If somebody is disrupting your peace, can't do it. You got to know what you value most. And you have to assess yourself to say, look, I'm in this situation. This ain't it. This isn't it. This is going to take me out. And I got to put myself in position now where I can go get, even if I have to take a step back a little bit or go without a little bit, I'll take that than having to stay in here another day.
I have counseled people and shared with them when they're in tumultuous toxic relationships, that the reason why they've been there for that long, tell me if I'm wrong or going in the right direction with that counsel, is that one, they don't value themselves. Two, it lets me know that you don't have boundaries. Boundaries aren't for others. Boundaries are for yourself. And then as people get to know you, they learn your boundaries. So they know what works for you, what doesn't work, what you like, what you don't like, what you're open to and what you're not open to. And so I tell them at that point in time, you have to value and love yourself more. One. Two, what are your boundaries? Get back in touch with your values and what's acceptable and not acceptable for you in life and relationship. And then from there, share it with that person and communicate to them that if you do this, which I can no longer take, these are the repercussions. And I said that because you said, even when that you live with the person and you said, that's why you got to have community, it triggered me to say, okay, you have some place to go. It's not like you don't have a place to go. So maybe the repercussion is, I'm going to pack my bags. I'm leaving. So is that the right?
Definitely, because it's safety first. Physical safety is important, but psychological safety is as well. Oftentimes people have psychological breaks, and it's not because every time it happens, it's not because they took a hit of some sherm and it just knocked. No, they had a psychological break. They were in such a tumultuous relationship where it was that traumatizing that it really caused a great deal of misfiring in the brain. Everybody has a story. And so when it comes to things like that, you have to be able to prioritize safety, not just physical safety, but psychological safety. You have to do it. And you also have to know that if somebody when you get to studying, and I know people don't necessarily study it like I do all the time, but I'm really into personality disorders and just learning, because oftentimes I come to people that have dealt with that type of abuse.
Yeah.
A couple things are usually that in my studies, the things that I see the most, number one is that it didn't start in that relationship. It started back a lot of time. These are childhood
wounds.
There's
history. Yes,
there's a history. It goes all the way back to childhood. And with, say for instance, just say we'll use a lady, for instance, if she is dealing in a narcissistic relationship, she was literally she was preyed upon, and she was literally stalked. She would never understand that, but she was literally stalked. And the importance of men. I talk to you because this is your podcast, the importance of having men present, a father figure present. It's very, very important. They oftentimes, a lot of narcissists, they look for the absence
of a man
of strength.
Yes.
Not the presence. They look for the absence.
Yes.
Most guys in their right mind, they want a girl like, does she got a good relationship with her father? That's important.
Right.
That's important. The narcissist, he's hoping she don't. I'm hoping she don't. That's what he's looking for. He's seeking that bad, that because that's when he know he can put his teeth in.
That's
like,
good.
Nobody's gonna catch this. They're not going to see it. Before I know it, I have it right where I need to be. Versus, a narcissist, he sees somebody like, we call them wolves, but just look at hyenas. Tell you something. Craziest thing. You learn so much about life sometimes looking at some of the most innocent things that you wouldn't even think about. The Lion King told us it's the truth. That's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it speaks a lot about life, just as far as family dynamics and things like that. That man is very, very important. You take that man away, that's how the hyenas of life, they will invade. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
They coming after Kimba.
They're coming for him. It's over. I need to get you. It's time.
Right.
Right. Waiting for you to leave.
Right.
He comes back though.
Because if the father isn't there, the lion isn't there.
Game time. It's open season. Open season.
Come on, it's open season.
And it's in nature. I mean, the Lion King depicted it a certain way, but you can go on National Geographic and that's what it is.
I'm tracking
it's vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so the narcissists in light, that's what they're seeking, man. Where's the weakness? And even when it comes to lions, you can take a herd of wild buffalo. When the lions are out there hunting, they're not looking for the strongest. They look for the weak.
For the weakest.
So narcissistic personality disorder, quite often, they can't help but to engage in predatory behavior.
Right.
They're seeking weakness. Where's the opening?
That's why that individual, he not only preyed on women, he preyed on men too.
Yeah, it's weakness.
Yeah, it's weakness.
Vulnerability. They just said like, it's weakness. And you can tell somebody, going back to the Sean Puffy Combs, I pray for the brother. Well, because at the end of the day, he obviously needs some help. And I'm not one of them people that do stuff just for social media, because a lot of people that are pissed off about Diddy, you ain't say nothing about that neighbor of yours that been doing that for the past 5 years. You don't want to bring that up though, huh? Yeah, when it comes to the neighbor, my business. That ain't my business. But you got everything. You done wrote a whole dissertation on Diddy.
Right.
Yeah, about how pissed off you are about that. But you need to take, so I'm saying all that to say that it happens at a higher frequency than what's needed. And we as a people, as a community, must address it. Hopefully the lady, because we're bringing it up, Cassie, she's able to get the help that she needs. It's disturbing to see something like that. It's disturbing to see something like that. Very, very, very much. But that is what happens more than likely when a young boy is, grows up to be a man and is not correct, that
Right.
stuff it's been happening since he was, that power.
Back to single parent.
Yeah, that power that he's able to, and that's what he thinks. And so he preys upon weakness. You think that was John Gotti's daughter? You think that happens?
Doesn't happen.
Right, that happened. Huh.
I have all girls, Eric, and
Yeah.
I've let the brothers know, and they grown now, but I let grown ones know too.
I preach. I believe in the Bible.
Hey,
Jesus is my savior.
I love Jesus.
Yeah.
If you touch my daughter,
yeah,
you're gonna see a different me.
Yeah, you're gonna see a different you.
Yeah.
And you'll see Jesus too. That might be part of the package.
Hey, brother, watch this, because the veins,
yeah,
you won't have none.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so I love that analogy. Phenomenal. Speak to the woman real quick out there before we close, who is in a toxic relationship and she knows that it's not going anywhere. She knows that if she stays another day, another week, it may cost her life.
I want her to know that, number one, there's help out there. Don't be afraid to seek help. There's help out there. There are people, there are different organizations out there. If you happen to be in the Los Angeles area, there's a company that I'm very much well connected with, and the owners I love dearly, known as Shepherd's Door. If you're in Los Angeles, seek assistance immediately. That is, from the aspect of resource. Now, just on the aspect of reality, you staying will only quadruple the damage that individual has already done. You got to get fresh air. You got to get a fresh start. A window will open. I tell anybody that. And it's 2024, Pastor. So we got to speak it for guys too. A guy might be out there and he got to, she know how to fight.
Hey, brother, I've seen it. And I tell women all the time.
Yeah.
Just think it's men. Oh, no.
No, come on, man. I got I can tell you some stories.
Hey, there's sisters out there who have fangs and paws.
And know how to use them. Trained well. And so for them as well, you have to get your safety is what's most important. Don't continue to roll dice. Anything that you have, this material shelter, you can get that back. You can get it back. You really, really can. You can get it back, but you got to be, in order for you to thrive and for you to become the best version of yourself, you got to be in the right soil. And right now, baby girl, you on cement. You're not going to go too far. You got to be put in the right area, in the right space to be able to, grow accordingly. And where you are, if it's toxic, it's just a matter of time before it really completes, and does you something that you can't recover from.
We're going to pop in the link below, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, that information. So no matter where you're at in these United States, you can call that hotline and get assistance and support. And we personally, not just through A Better You, but through my ministry, we support women as well as men who may be faced with these toxic, destructive relationships. So, Dr. E, man, this has been phenomenal. Any closing thoughts for the audience as it pertains to their personal mental health and what doing the work looks like?
Yeah, if you're in a situation and you are listening to this, you're in a situation where you've been kind of wondering, like going back and forth, like, I think I need to speak to somebody. I don't believe in coincidence. I heard a saying the other day, I think it's by Albert Einstein. He said, coincidence is just God's way of remaining anonymous. So if you are hearing this conversation between myself and Pastor McFarland, take this as a sign. It's for you. It was meant for you to hear this conversation. Seek to go get some help. And whatever case, whether if you're dealing with just mental health, it could be something that's like ADHD or, ADD, whatever depression, anxiety, or if you're in a DV situation, take this as a sign. You're hearing it. You're hearing it for a reason.
Very good. And for those listeners and viewers out there, as well as partners, there will be a link to Eric Warren's. His information will be in the link, as well as if you would like to schedule a 15-minute, what I call a discovery call, just to talk, do that. The link will be in the box below. And with that being said, Eric, thank you so much for joining me on A Better You podcast. Again, I got to have you back. I think we need to do a part two of this.
We can do it all day.
Part two of this. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we'll definitely do a part two. Yeah. Until the next time. Thank you guys so much for joining me on A Better You podcast. And remember, when there is a better you, a better me, a better us, there's a better world. Until the next time, God bless you.
Thank you for tuning in to A Better You program with Anthony McFarland. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.